Hello friends, today we will discuss about some important points of C# programming concepts. Here are the topics. First one is what is three-dimensional multi-dimensional array, means 3D array in C#, what is jagged array, along with the example. We will see all these topics one by one with the example. So let's begin. Our first topic is the 3D array, means multi-dimensional array. Here we have the definition. A 3D array is an array where three dimensions, rows, columns and depth are included. So three-dimension arrays are that where we have three dimensions. In first dimension we set the layers, second dimension we set the rows, and third we have the columns. So these three includes in 3D array. Think of it like a cube or a stack of 2D matrices. So you can think about a cube where we have three dimensions into that. First is we can say that it is about layers, how many layers we have. Second we have rows, how many rows we have in that cube. And third, columns, it is about columns, how many columns we have into that cube. Each element is identified by its three indices x, y and z. So there are total three dimensions. First one which consists of layers, means how many layers are into that arrays, and second one we have rows, how many rows are there. Third one is columns. Syntax we have for 3D array. First one is data type like integer, string, like that, and here is a declaration part where we declare with the square brackets and with two commas, because it is a 3D array. First one is about layers, then rows and then columns. Next we give the array name, and then the memory allocation with the new keyword, and then data type same integer or string. Next we set how many layers are into that array, means 2 layers or 3 layers, like that. Or y is considered as rows, how many rows are into that particular layer. And third one is the columns, how many columns are there into that particular row. So here is the list of that x, y and z. X is like size of first dimension arrays, y is size of second dimension, z is size of third dimension. Okay. Next one we have example of 3D array. First one is a declaration portion, data type, then square brackets with the double commas because it is a three-dimensional array, then the array name, and then memory allocation, and then we set the 2 layers, 2 rows and 3 columns. So this is the declaration portion, and here we initialize some values in 2 layers. So this is the first layer and this is the second layer. And here if we want to display only one value with that particular index, according to that we can set or get according to this. First one we set the in which layer we want the data, and in which row we want the data, and in which column index we want that particular value. So in this way we can get the 12 value from this layer 1. And if we want to print these elements, we have to use 3 for loops, because it is about 3D array. So we have to use the first loop for layers, second loop for rows, and third loop for columns. So let's see this one in Visual Studio. Now let's see the three-dimensional array, means 3D array. Dimensional array. First we have to declare the values, and for 3 dimensions we have to set in this format. Next is the array name, 3D array we have, then the initial declaration. Here we can set, suppose we want to take 3 layers, 3 rows and 3 columns. In this way we can set. Next we have to set the layers. So this is layer 1, and in layer 1 we have 3 rows and 3 columns. So this is for 3 layers, means we have to initialize 3 layers and 3 rows inside each layer, and 3 columns inside each row. So this is the layer 1, and inside it we have to set 3 rows. So in this way we can set So this is our first layer. Layer 2, here we have to set the next values. So this is a layer 2. Now let's talk about layer 3. We have these values. Okay, 24. Next we have so we initialize 3 layers with the 3 rows and 3 columns. So this is all about 3 rows and 3 columns. Okay, so these are the 3 layers. First we initialize 3 layers with the 3 rows and 3 columns. Here we have first layer, second layer and third layer, and inside each layer we have 3 rows and 3 columns. So this is the format of 3-dimensional array. Now let's if we want to display these arrays, 3-dimensional array, then we have to use 3 loops for this one. First we can set the hard coded value, then we will see in another way. Now if we want to display these values, then we can do in this way. What is the name? 3D array. Okay, in this way we can display, and then if we want some space, then we can do in this way, and if we want to print these in next line, then we can use console.writeLine. So this is the declaration and initialization of a program of 3-dimensional array. So let's see this one, what it will give us. So we have 3 layers. Within each layer we have 3 rows, and in each row we have 3 columns. So this is the 3-dimensional array as it is we declare into this array, 3D array. First we declare 1 to 9 elements into first layer, and then 10 to 18 elements into second layer, and 19 to 27 into third layer. So this is the concept of 3D array. Means if we want to declare in this way, we can set the size also according to our requirement. We can set the layers, set the rows, and set the columns. So this is the one way. And if we do not want to hard coded these values, then how we can do it? We can do in this way. As we already studied about get length method, we can set in this way. With the get length method, it set the values accordingly to the arrays. This loop is for layers, this loop is for rows, this loop is for columns. So here we have 3 loops. Now let's see this one, because this is a dynamic approach. It calculates accordingly to the elements, how many elements we declare, how many layers we declare, how many rows or columns we declare. It fetch that records automatically with this method. Let's see this one first. So we have the same as it is result as the last. So this is the main functionality of three-dimensional array. Suppose if we do not want to write or set the size while the declaration, then we can see it will display us the values or display us the elements or not. So here we have the elements. It also display these values and iterate these values without initializing, without setting the value at the starting, means declaration time. We do not need to specify the layers, rows or columns. It accordingly set that elements, that layers according to the requirement. Next thing, so this is the short way. If we do not want to go in this way, we have the another way also, but that is a long way, means lengthy way we have. But we have to study about all that ways we have into our coding. Here we can set these elements, first one for layer, then rows and then columns. Here we can set one by one elements into that particular array, into that particular index. So this is our first layer, layer 1. First we can set the values. And here we have to set the column size. Here we have to set the row. Here we have to set yeah, it is already set. So this is our first layer. For second layer we can do in this way. Second layer we have, here we have to set the layer size, means the layer indexing, in which layer it is working. And another thing, we have the same, here we can change the values. So this is our layer 2. Then we talk about layer 3. So this is the third layer. So these are our 3 layers. First we set it according to the layer size. Here we have the first layer, so that's why we set the 0 value, because it always work with indexing, as I already told you about the indexing. And second is the row size, and then the column size. Column indexing, row indexing and layer indexing. Here we set the values according to the layers, according to the rows and according to the columns. Now let's see this one, what it will prints. It is not giving us the exactly the proper values. Okay, here we have to set the row second. Here we have to set the rows according to the array. Now it will print. So here we have the values as it is, as we declare or initialize according to our array. First we initialize in first layer from values 1 to 9, so we display these values. Second layer we have 10 to 18 values, 10 to 18 elements it displays. Third layer we have 19 to 27, so 19 to 27 is displayed on this terminal window. So we have 3 layers, 3 rows and 3 columns. So this is the 3-dimensional array. We saw all the ways we can declare it, we can initialize it. So in this way we can initialize it. So but this is a lengthy way, and this one is the shortest way. If we want to declare in this way, we can declare in this way also, because it is declared one by one indexing, so it will consume much time. And if we want to display these, we can do it in this way. We can set the hard-coded value, means a static value, or we can use the dynamic approach. So this is a dynamic approach. It accordingly set the layers, set the rows and columns, and in this way we can display it. So this is a 3-dimensional array. So this is the next example, as we already saw into the Visual Studio about a 3-dimensional array with the get length method. So this is all about the multi-dimensional array. Next one we have a jagged array. So what is a jagged array? A jagged array is an array of arrays. So a jagged array is like an array inside array, means one array we have, and inside that we have multiple arrays. So that is a jagged array. Each row can have a different number of elements, unlike 2D arrays where all rows have same length. So in each row we can set different elements into each row. We do not provide any particular fixed value for each row. We can set according to a requirement. Suppose if we have 3 rows, and in first row we only require 2 columns, and then in second row we require 3 columns, and in third row we require only 4 columns. According to the requirements, we can set the elements into jagged array. So this is the approach of jagged array. A jagged array is an array of arrays where each row can have different lengths. So as I already told you, it can have different lengths into that jagged array. We do not need to specify the fixed length for each row. We can set according to a requirement. In CSharp it is declared using double square brackets. So if we want to declare these jagged array, we can use double square brackets. So this is the syntax. First is the data type, means integer string, and this is the syntax of if we want to declare jagged array. So this we have to provide double square brackets, and here is the array name, and here is the memory allocation with the new keyword. Next one we have data type, means integer string, and next we have to set the rows, how many rows we want, and next is empty square bracket, because we are not providing any column value. On according to our requirement, we can set the elements, how many elements we want in each row. Next we have the example of jagged array. It means arrays of arrays, and you can loop through each row separately. So in arrays of array we can use the multiple loops, and it will iterate according to each row. First example, we have the initialization portion. First we declare the integer type with the double square brackets, and then array name, and the memory allocation, and then the data type, and the row size, means 3 rows we require, and this is the empty square brackets. So we have 3 rows. Here we are declaring each row with the different columns, means in first row we require only 2 columns, second row we require 3 columns, third row we require only 1 element. So this is the declaration portion. We can set the elements according to our requirements. There is no need to define the column size at the declaration time. So if we want to display these values, we can use for each loop, for loop according to our requirement as it is. And if we want to display these jagged array, first we have to use the declare the integer array, because arrays of arrays it is. So inside array we have another array. So for this we have to use the second for each loop inside this for each loop. So in each row it will iterate through each row for jagged arrays. So if we want to display these values, we can easily use the console.write to display the values. Next we have second example where we provide 5 rows and where we initialize 5 rows with a different element size. And here we use for loop. According to a requirement we can use for loop for each loop. Here we set the length of jagged array, means we have 5 length, and then according to that we can use a second loop for this, because it will iterate row by row. So if we provide I in square bracket, it means it starts from 0 indexing. When it comes to 0, then it will get that 0 indexing arrays, and then total length means if we have 0 indexing means we have 2 elements. Now its length is 2, so it iterates 2 times like that. And if we want to display these values, then we can do in this way. So let's see this one. So next we have jagged arrays. Let's see the jagged arrays inside arrays. First is the initialization part. If we want to initialize it, we have to use the double square bracket. This is the data type, and then we provide the array name. Next we can set the row size, and this square brackets will be empty for now. And next if we want to initialize some values, then we can do in this way. In this way we can initialize the values. So we have to provide 5 rows. And according to the requirement we can set the values into this one. So now we initialize all the values, means 5 rows with the different columns, different length of columns. Suppose if we want to display these values, first we will display according to the for each loop, because this is arrays of arrays, so we have to initialize one more for each loop. Here we have to set the row, then we can iterate each row according to that. Then we can display values, we can display item. If we want some space, then we can display, and for next line we can use console.write line. Now let's see first this one. Now we have all the elements. In first row we display or declare 3 elements, 1 2 3. Second row we display 4 to 5, then 6 to 9. Then in fourth row we only require 1 element, and in fifth row we require only 5 elements. As it is, it displays the message. So this is the jagged array. According to our requirements we can set the elements in each row. So this is the benefit of jagged arrays. We can provide any values in each row. It is not compulsory to set the fixed size for each row. As we already saw in our 3-dimensional array, 2-dimensional array, we have to set the size of the column, but not in here into jagged arrays. We can set the size, column size, according to our requirements in each row. So this is a beneficial for us. So this is the one way. And if we want to use the for loop, Then how we can display it? We can display in this way: jagged array dot length here we require one more loop for this one, because here we have arrays of arrays inside, and if we want to iterate one by one row, then we have to use this approach. Here it will get a first array and then display according to the elements. So write jagged arrays, and if we want to display these values, then we can go in this way, and if we require some space for each element, then we can do in this way: console.write line for next line. Now let's see this one. Now we have all the values as it is, as we saw earlier. It is giving us 5 rows with different length of columns in each row. So this is jagged array. In this way we can also display these values one by one. First it get all the total length, and then one by one it get one array into this second loop. So this is a second loop. Here we have 0 indexing. It starts from 0 to total length means 4. 0 to 4 it will start. In first array we have 0 indexing, and here we have 3 values, so it will iterate 3 times and it will display all the values in first row. So this is the one way, and suppose if we do not want to initialize in this way, we want to set the values on the declaration time, then how we can do it? We can do in this way: on the declaration time we can initialize the values. Now let's see this one result. So we have the same as it is result, no doubt. And one more thing, if we do not want to set the size, can we do it? Yes, of course we can do it. Let's display this one. So it automatically grabs the size of the rows or the size of the columns. So this is the next thing. We can initialize the values according to the declaration time or without setting any row size. It will automatically grab all the rows, and it will display all these elements with the for loop or for each loop. So this is the jagged array. First we declare the values according to a requirement, then we displayed it through the for loop. So this is our today's summary. Let's revise what we learned today. First one, we learn about three-dimensional array, 3D array, a fixed size cube-like structure that stores data in layers of 2D arrays using 3 indices I, J or K. So three-dimensional array is like if we have layers, rows or columns, means we have 3 dimensions. Suppose think of it like a cube. We have 3 dimensions. First dimension we have layers, how many layers are into a cube. Second we have rows, how many rows are into one layer. And third we have columns, how many columns are there into one each row. So that is a 3-dimensional array. It works according to the layers, then rows, then columns. So for this we have 3 dimensions. So that's why it's called 3D array. Next one we have jagged array, an array of arrays where each row can have a different length, making it flexible for uneven data. So jagged array is like where we have arrays of arrays inside. Suppose we have one array and inside that array we have multiple arrays. So that is jagged array. And we have to set, if we want to declare this jagged array, we want to use these jagged arrays, we have to declare with double square brackets. And next on the memory allocation time we have to set the rows, how many rows we want, means we want 1 or 3 or 5, or how many rows we want according to a requirement. We can set the size but not the column size. Column size we set when we declare or we initialize the values on the time of declaration or on the time of initialization. According to a requirement, we can set the columns or elements on each row particularly. Means we do not want to set fixed column size for each row. We can set according to a requirement. Suppose if we have 3 rows and first row we want 3 columns only, second row we want only 1 column, and in third row we want only 5 columns. According to a requirement, we can set the length of the columns into each row. So this is the benefit of jagged array. So this is all about the 3-dimensional array and jagged array. You can practice them into your Visual Studio. If you have any doubt related with these topics, you can mention them into the comment section. So let's wind up today's session. Thanks. See you in the next lecture.